Have you ever felt like you're just not a math person? Or that you could never learn a new language? Well, what if I told you that's completely wrong? And that anyone, yes, anyone, can actually rewire their brain to learn just about anything more effectively? Okay, let's dive into the incredible science behind how you can change your own brain, all based on the work of Barbara Oakley. It really all started with this one simple question from a student. How do you do it? How do you change your brain? And that question, it just cuts right to the heart of this huge myth we have about our own abilities. The answer to this question, it completely reshaped how we understand learning itself.
So to get that answer, you first have to know the person who was asked, Barbara Oakley, because her journey, well, it is probably the last thing you'd expect from a distinguished professor of engineering. In fact, it's the total opposite.
That's right, Barbara Oakley literally flunked math and science all through elementary, middle, and high school. She hated it. She thought she just didn't have the gene for it. But after a stint in the army where she had to learn Russian, she started to wonder, could she retrain her brain? Spoiler alert, she absolutely did. And that incredible transformation is the living proof that these learning techniques really, really work. So how in the world did she pull it off? Well, the first big secret was understanding something fundamental about how our brains work. Turns out, our brains aren't just on or off. We have two totally different ways of thinking, two different modes of operation. And this is the absolute key to everything, the focused mode and the diffuse mode. The focused mode is probably what you think of as learning, that intense heads-down concentration. But then there's the diffuse mode. That's your brain's more relaxed, background processing state, that mind-wandering state where brand new ideas can suddenly connect out of nowhere. And the difference between them is just night and day. Focused mode is like a laser beam. It follows familiar, well-worn neural pathways. It's super powerful for problems you already know how to solve, but it's also where you get stuck. The diffuse mode, on the other hand, is like a floodlight. It kicks in when you relax, when you're taking a shower or going for a walk. And that is where your brain makes the surprising, creative leaps you need to solve tough, new problems. To make this super clear, Oakley uses this brilliant analogy, a pinball machine. Imagine your thoughts are the pinball. In focused mode, the rubber bumpers are packed really tightly together, so the ball just bounces around on a familiar, concentrated path. But to get to a truly new thought pattern, you need to switch to diffuse mode, where the bumpers are spread far apart. That allows the ball, your thought, to travel a completely new route and make a connection it never could have before.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. We're talking about creative geniuses who have been hacking this system for centuries. Get this? The surrealist painter Salvador Dali used to hold a key in his hand while he dozed off in a chair. The very second he'd fall fully asleep, the key would drop, clatter on the floor, and wake him up, allowing him to grab those brilliant, bizarre ideas from his diffuse mode. Thomas Edison did the same thing with ball bearings. So the big takeaway here is that real learning requires both. You need to toggle between focus and relaxation. Okay, so we know we need to focus, but what about that giant monster that gets in the way for all of us? I'm talking about procrastination. Well, it turns out there's a real neurological reason for it, and a super simple, science-backed tool to beat it. Now, this is a total game changer. Procrastination is not you being lazy. It is not a character flaw. Brain scans show that when you just think about doing something you don't like, the pain centers in your brain actually light up. It causes literal discomfort. So procrastination is just your brain's natural defense mechanism to turn away from that pain and think about something more pleasant. It's a physiological response. And the good news is you can manage it. Enter the Pomodoro Technique. It's so simple, but it is wildly effective. Here's the trick. You forget about finishing the big, scary task. Instead, you focus only on working for 25 minutes. That's it. This little mental shift helps you get past that initial brain pain. And that 5-minute reward at the end, it's not just a break. It's your golden ticket to diffuse mode, letting your brain relax and start connecting those dots in the background. So we've beaten procrastination, we're sitting down to work, but how do we make that time actually count? Because it turns out that most of the ways we were taught to study are incredibly inefficient, and some are just plain wrong. Okay, just look at this. The difference is staggering, right? So many of us spend hours just rereading our notes or highlighting half the textbook. But the research is clear. These are some of the least effective ways to learn. They create what's called an illusion of competence. You feel like you're learning because the material is right there in front of you, but it's not actually sticking in your long-term memory. So what's the secret weapon? The single most powerful learning method is something called retrieval practice. It's simple. It just means closing the book and testing yourself. Try to recall the key ideas purely from memory. Every single time you actively pull that information out of your own head, you're not just reviewing it, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways. You're literally building stronger wiring in your brain. So, what about the all-nighter? We've all done it. Neurologically, cramming is like trying to build a brick wall by just dumping a huge pile of bricks and wet mortar all at once. You get a weak, jumbled, unstable mess that's going to collapse the second you walk away from it. The real way to build that wall is with spaced repetition, studying a little bit over several days. This is like being a master bricklayer. You lay down a layer of bricks, the new information, and then you give the neural mortar time to dry and set. And that drying time, that's where sleep becomes absolutely essential. Let's be clear, sleep is not a luxury. It's not passive downtime. It is your brain's critical cleaning crew and construction team. While you sleep, your brain cells actually shrink, which allows fluids to flow through and wash away all the metabolic toxins that build up during the day. And even more amazing, sleep is when your brain strengthens and forms those new synaptic connections. Skipping sleep after you study is like writing a brilliant essay and then forgetting to hit save. So when you put all of these pieces together, the two modes, the procrastination tools, the effective study habits, it leads to this one final and really powerful shift in your mindset about what you're truly capable of. We hear this advice all the time, don't we? Follow your passion. But Oakley's research suggests we might have that backwards. What if you don't feel passionate about calculus, but you need to learn it? The big idea here is that passion isn't always something you just find. Often, it's something you build. Passion often develops after you put in the work and actually start to get good at something. And that leaves us with this final, powerful thought from Barbara Oakley herself. Instead of just sticking to the things we already like, what if we use these tools to get good at new things, to build new competencies? Don't just follow your passions, broaden your passions. Because learning how to learn isn't really about getting better grades. It's about opening yourself up to a richer, more interesting, and more capable life.